Welcome to Tower Talk Business Radio, where we bring you conversations with the top business minds on Long Island and around the nation every week. Featuring expert consultants and small business owners who have found success but are also willing to share their top tips, failures, and give gritty, matter-of-fact advice based on their firsthand experience. Now, let's get down to business on Tower Talk Business Radio on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC.
Hello and welcome to Tower Talk Business Radio. My name is Ray Schwetz, AVP of Business Banking at Jovia Financial Credit Union, and we're focused on being the premier resource for business and entrepreneurship. We bring you weekly business advice, tips, tools, and services that help you grow your business. And we interview the top business leaders in the industry. Now, I'm very excited because today we have with me someone who I want to introduce you to, a very close friend of mine. We've known each other for years. We were colleagues at NEFQ, at Jovia, formerly NEFQ. Welcome to the show, Ellen Smiley.
Thank you so much for the invitation, Ray. And as always, it's a pleasure to spend time with you.
Well, same here. And Ellen is a seasoned financial literacy coach. She's been doing this for a long time. She has a lot of connections within the school districts and really a professional when it comes to this area, as well as a good friend. So, Ellen, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
I started at NEFQ, now Jovia, in 2006 in the communications department. And after 6 months, I moved to the business development department. And my second day in that job, my manager came to me and said, "You're now the financial literacy person in the department." And I went, "What? Say what? What is that?" So my degree of ignorance was astonishing. And my learning curve was fast and steep. But what I found was that the more I looked into it, the more fascinating it became, because very early on in the process, I could see the real life implications of changing people's lives for the better. And that spurred me on to doing more research, more investigation. By the time I left Jovia, which was in 2013, mid-2013, I was doing between 125 and 150 presentations a year.
Wow. That's a lot of presentations.
A lot of presentations. A lot of them were in the high schools in the county. Mm-hmm. I spoke in probably 40 to 50% of the high schools, because those people involved in the schools, the administrators, the teachers, know that there's a crying need for this information. Nobody is teaching it anymore. And these were young adults, 16, 17, 18, just getting ready to step out into the real world. And they wanted to give them something solid, a solid base to go forward with. I spoke in front of superintendents groups, PTA groups, union groups, teachers groups, retired teachers groups, a broad spectrum of individuals.
Yes, a lot of great experience and a lot of great information to get out there. And I do think it's something that still is missing, unfortunately, from a lot of curriculum. Not sure exactly why. I do know that some of the schools, what they're doing to mitigate that is that they are bringing experts in. And so that, I think, is a wonderful thing, because the more we teach, the better off we are. You know, there's resources on Long Island that are wonderful, such as the Commerce Plaza and that sort of thing, to help with this and to make this information available to folks. So why don't you tell me a little bit about how you help folks? Like, what is it exactly that you do as a financial literacy coach?
Sure. Like myself, most people are not familiar with the term financial literacy. Mm-hmm. And so I work through a 3-step process with them. I will tell them up front. There are three things that I mention up front. Number one, I don't do investments. Don't ask me about stocks, bonds, mutual funds, gold. That's not my area of expertise.
No crypto.
No crypto. What I tell them is they have to accept that as we work together, we're in a no judgment zone. Whatever happened in the past is over and done with. We're moving forward in a positive direction. And they need to be honest. They need to be honest with themselves in the information that they're giving to me, so that I'm in the position to give them the kind of help that they need. The 3-step process is, first of all, budgeting, which is usually where I get the eye rolls. How boring. It's actually not. It's really eye-opening. Mm-hmm. It's an extraordinarily detailed budget sheet. It's 2 full pages that we work with. We want to know what they've got coming in. We want to know what they've got going out. And we want to know where the going out is going to. And that's the key piece. When we get to the end of the budgeting piece, the eyes are not rolling. They're usually wide open.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say to people, okay, you're now in the position where you have run out of money before you've run out of month. That means you're operating in a deficit, so something has to change. And if we get to the end of the process and they've run out of month before they run out of money, I'll say to them, that's great. We still have work to do because you can do better.
Mm-hmm.
And the money that we find becomes the hidden treasure.
Mm-hmm.
And the hidden treasure is the gold. And the gold is, as we work through the paying down and paying off debt piece, the money that we have found from the budgeting piece, along with 32 pages of other tips on where to find hidden money, goes together in a lump at the end of the month. And that's the money that's used to pay down and pay off the debt that they're living in. And all of that then leads to the third piece, which is credit.
Mm-hmm.
Credit scores, credit monitoring. Why is this stuff important? What impact does it have on you? What impact does it have on your family's lives? And it's tremendous.
Mm-hmm.
So we work a 3-stage process.
Yep. And I think that process does take you through all the kind of the pillars of financial literacy, the things that you've got to be aware of in order to make sure that you're financially successful. Now, I'm sure going in, there's probably a lot of misconceptions. Folks are like, here's somebody's going to tell me what I can do with my what I should do with my money. And sometimes people don't like that. Well, what are the common misconceptions that you run against?
Probably the most common misconception is, I'm going to have to stop doing stuff I like.
Right.
I'm going to have to stop doing fun. And that's not the case at all. There's ways of maintaining your current lifestyle without it costing you what it is that it's costing you. It's either getting you into debt and or keeping you in debt.
Right.
And what this is in all of the polls. One of the most stressful factors in people's lives is money, debt.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had anybody say to me, I have too much money. No. What I hear is, I can't make...
If you have somebody like that, please send them my way.
I will do that after I've had a conversation with them. Everybody says, there's not enough money. I don't know how I can manage. I don't know what to do anymore. I lie awake at night. And so what I will tell them is that I am now 50% of your life wellness plan.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that sounds crazy and or maybe arrogant, but it's the truth, because with money or the lack of it being one of the most stressful pieces of people's lives, it's affecting your health, it's affecting your relationships. You get short-tempered, maybe you have to work overtime, you don't have time with your family or friends, maybe you're looking for a second job to fill in some of the holes. The same thing, you don't have time with family and friends, time to enjoy yourself. Once you get that piece into place, those stresses melt away. Mm-hmm. So I am 50% of your life wellness plan. The other 50% is made up of family, friends, your religious community, your social community, your healthcare team, your doctors, the nurses, the dentists. All of that comes under the blanket of the other 50%. Once you get the money piece under control, the rest of it is so much easier.
Yeah, the rest of it just kind of flows through. Unfortunately, this life that we live in now, everything is powered by what currency you have. So that's very important. Can you share with us a story? I'm sure there are many, of someone that you've worked with and how you've helped them and how that impacted their lives.
Yeah, there's somebody I just finished working with. He and his wife declared bankruptcy. It went through the courts. It was signed off on. About 3 weeks after that, he called me and said, I really need some help. He explained the situation. If he had called me 6 months earlier, he might not have gone through bankruptcy, but that's a whole other story. Mm. He said to me, I want to put you on a 3-month retainer. Can we do that? And I said, sure, not a problem. We started working together, and it took about 7 weeks out of the 12 weeks to get that couple to the point of where he could say to me, I've got it. I've got it now. I see what I need to do. You've given me a roadmap. Just going through the essential first step, the budgeting, we found $1,000 that they didn't know they had that
Wow.
they could use to start moving forward in their lives. And after about 7 weeks, he said, "Thank you so much. I don't need you on retainer anymore. I think we're done here." So I judge a piece of success by when somebody says to me, essentially, "You're fired. Thanks a lot, but you're fired." And I will do a once-a-year check-in with my clients. Are you still on track? Are you still okay? Contact me if you need help.
Yeah. Well, that's a very honest business model. And at the end of the day, that's what you're really trying to do. You're trying to put yourself out of a job because you want to bring people to the point where they're independently financially successful or independently financially maintaining their lifestyle.
Right. And one of the
That's
things
the
that
goal.
I do stress, and this varies from individual to individual, depending on their circumstances, this is not where you're going to open your eyes tomorrow morning and it's all going to be solved. This is a process to work through. There are realities to deal with. There's also the mental piece, which is adjusting their thinking to a new type of lifestyle. And I'll say to people, this doesn't have to be forever. This is just for now. You're in a hole now, so let's dig you out of that hole so that you can move forward. You may choose to keep some pieces. You may choose to throw some pieces away. But this is going to get you out of the trouble that you're in.
Right. Now, who's your best clients?
At one time, not too long ago, my best clients were in the sort of late 20s to late 40s age range. And then it was brought up to me, and I was slow on the uptake with this one. It was brought up to me by somebody I was working with who said, "Do you think you could schedule an appointment for my mom? My dad passed away from COVID. He was the money handler
Right.
in the household, and she doesn't have a clue as to what to do." So my best clients now range from, I'm meeting with somebody next week. Her 19-year-old son is just stepping out into the world. She wants him to avoid the mistakes she made, up to people in their mid-80s. It's just broadened dramatically.
You are listening to Tower Talk Business Radio on the voice of National Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm Ray Schwetz, and today our guest is Ellen Smiley, financial literacy coach. Now, what do you like most about your work? Because here's the thing. You're dealing with a lot of challenges. You're telling people, all right, we're going to manage your money. Sometimes that's not the happiest conversation, but yet you're always smiling. So obviously, Ellen Smiley loves smiling. She loves her work. What is it that really drives you with this?
You know, I grew up in a home where we were a typical American family. We didn't come from money. Both mom and dad worked. I could see them writing out checks at night. I could see them shuffling around bills at times. And I could see the stress that it put on them, how they would become worried, short-tempered. When I can help somebody avoid that piece of a lifestyle, that is really satisfying to me. When I know that somebody can go forward in a much more successful way in life, it just opens the floodgates of happiness.
Yeah, I could see that being extremely satisfying. Now, your work is very experiential. How do you get folks to understand the benefits of your work, and how do folks tend to come to you? Because, I mean, again, it's something that, unless I'm in trouble, I'm not going to necessarily look for a financial literacy coach. But I'm sure you get clients who are not necessarily in trouble, right?
I get clients who are not necessarily in trouble. So far, there are some changes happening in my business life. So far, all of my clients have been word of mouth. Somebody who has found something that's successful for them will get excited about it and tell their friends, tell their relatives, tell their neighbors. And so my business has come from word of mouth. Just this week, I have bought a domain name. I am in the process of setting up a website. And that's going to be a whole other step for me. That's exciting for me. It's going to have information from former clients for potential clients. It's going to be a way to contact me easily. And so I talk about people's lives stepping up. This is my life stepping up to a new level.
Yeah, and making it much more accessible to folks. So I think that's very important.
Yeah.
And look, I mean, at the end of the day, now, like I said, the awareness, I think what's helpful is when you first were doing this work, 13 years ago, it was not as accepted as it is today, I think, to, know that, all right, hey, you gotta be on top of this. Hey, you got to start in the right foot. Hey, we got to include this in the schools. I think people are much more aware of it. And like Jovia is doing work in this area. We have financial literacy within the schools. We have someone dedicated to doing that. So I think it's good in that now we're working in a time where folks are a little bit more aware, but it's still on an individual level. You really need that hand-holding sometimes because it can be overwhelming. Now, you've worked with different generations in this financial planning. Are you seeing differences from, our generation to like the Gen Z folks in terms of their financial awareness?
The answer is yes and no. People have a sensing of where they stand financially. Even if they don't know the minute details, they have a sensing. Am I living paycheck to paycheck? Am I breaking out in a sweat when the bill comes in, whether it comes in the mail or it comes online? Are there times at night when I'm lying in bed thinking, maybe that wasn't such a smart decision, but now the money's already spent? And so there seems to be a broader acceptance of the idea that people aren't doing a great job overall in managing their money, that they can make changes. The challenge comes in, how do you make the changes? How do you find the person who's going to give you the information that you need so that you can make the changes in a positive way and get on with your life in a happier way? A big piece of it, particularly not so much with the Gen Zs, but as the generations go older, a big piece of it is embarrassment. That they find themselves in this situation at this age and they don't know what to do about it. And that's why I have my first rule is this is a no judgment zone. Let's get on with it.
Yep. Yeah, because it really is. You can't control some of these elements, but you can control how you react.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Now, what are the biggest challenges that you face in doing what you do?
The embarrassment.
The embarrassment is the number one.
And, particularly talking about the older people, because they were the most affected. When they have lost a life partner, they're dealing with grief. They're dealing with uncertainty. They're possibly looking at the loss of independence because they don't know how to manage these things.
Okay. Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And the fact of the matter is, there's planning and then there's the emotions that get involved with that.
Exactly. And so one of the things I teach is something called PEP, P-E-P, which is planning eliminates problems. If you do the planning at the earliest stage possible, going forward, you're eliminating the problems that you might have otherwise had.
What is the biggest accomplishment or what are some of the biggest accomplishments that you've made over your career?
First, just even learning about this.
Sure.
As I said, I went, say what? Say what?
So 0 to 60.
So zero to 60 in about 2.5 weeks. Oh, I'd say 0 to 45. The 60 came in stages going further from there.
Fair enough.
I would say that it has been a process for me as well as a process for my clients. And there are times when they have taught me things that I hadn't thought of, things that I needed to include in the budget sheet. I had one mom I was working with who had a special needs son, a single mom. And she was concerned about setting something up for him when she was no longer around to be caring for him. So one of the things that I worked strongly with on her case was setting up her emergency fund and getting it built as robustly as possible. Her son was still young. She was still a young woman, but that wasn't always going to be the case.
Yeah, of course. And you have to plan for that.
Yeah.
So we live in a society where people are very much like they'll skim the headline before they'll read the article, right? So to get people to kind of dive a little deeper into this, I like top fives, top tens, top threes. What's your top three bits of advice for financial planning or financial literacy?
I would say the first one, here we go with the eye roll, create and stick to a budget. Really, really important to know where your money's going to, not just what's coming in. Weigh wants versus needs for every purchase. Even the smallest purchase can make a difference in your budget at the end of the month. So is it something that I want? Do I already have 4 pair of really nice black slacks in my closet? Yeah, those are cute, but do I really need to spend the $54 on them? Wants versus needs. And the third one is set up an emergency fund and make it as fully funded as you can, because the car's going to break down, The oil burner is going to break down. The kids are going to join a new sport at school. You're going to have to get different equipment. You're going to want to put money into an investment account so that at some point in your life you can afford to retire, go on a vacation, pay for a wedding, pay for further education. There are all kinds of things that come up in life. And if you've got that money sitting there, it is a tremendous relief.
Yes, I would agree with that. It's really those unexpected items that come up that knock you off of whatever plan you have, because you're planning and there's life, right? One of the other things I think is very important. I know this is something that's kind of a part of your process. My daughter's 23 now, and when we were reviewing her paperwork for her employment, I said to her, well, what about your pension? So do you have any words of advice regarding that?
Do it as soon as you can. The 401k, the pension. If you're in a company that even offers a pension, they are extremely rare now. Do it as early as you can, put in as much as you can, and particularly if your employer is offering matching funds, make sure that you meet whatever threshold that is, because the money will continue to grow, and when you get to the stage of where you say, I'd like to step back from it, you're in the position to be able to do that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And it's so funny because you don't feel it. And I have to say that now I'm at that stage where I look back and I go, thankfully, someone told me when I was her age that I should do that. And so I think it's important to pass that information on to generations.
I had that same experience. One of my supervisors at work put a stack of papers in front of me and said, fill these out. And I said, but I'm only 22. He said, fill these out. In 60 years, you're going to thank me. I said, 60 years? Okay, so it was less than that, but somebody did that for me as well, and I thank him all the time for that. Yeah.
It's extremely important. So what do you feel like is the biggest pitfall or one of the biggest pitfalls that folks fall into, and how maybe they can either avoid them or how they can react better and fix that?
So I think probably the biggest pitfall is that people are not taking a clear-eyed look at their situation. Mm-hmm. You know, we like to look at life through rose-colored glasses.
Right.
Who doesn't like to do that? Which may or may not be a true reflection of what's actually going on. And so there needs to be a reality check as soon as possible to avoid getting into deeper trouble that's going to take a lot longer to dig out of and impact your life in ways that you probably don't even appreciate at that time.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
I mean, what I say is we're building tomorrow's security today. So if you deal with it today, by the time you get to tomorrow, you're already in a better position.
Now, as things change, one of the other things that I think is very interesting is that you do have a plan for certain things, and then products and services change. Needs sometimes change. An example of this would be, well, years ago, we had just a regular dial phone. Now we have cell phones. The regular dial phone was something like $30 or $40 a month. Even back then, maybe that equates to about $100 a month now.
Right.
Most cell phone plans for a family, it's a couple $100.
At least.
Yeah.
At least. So careful shopping, comparison shopping is critical. Maybe you don't need all of the bells and whistles. Yeah, it's nice to have them in case you should want them, but do you really need them? Particularly when you're in the stage of digging out. Once you're on firmer footing, if you want to get something with all the bells and whistles and you think it's going to be cool, it's going to be fun, it's going to work for you, that's fine.
And what do you feel is something that is like kind of a best-kept secret with financial services? I feel like, as I've gone through my career, there have been a couple of golden nuggets I've uncovered, and I go, oh, I wish I had known and done that earlier. One of them being, of course, the pension thing. Are there any kind of best-kept secrets with regards to financial services that you feel like should be mentioned?
I would say that there are more resources available with a little bit of investigation. That's what Google is for. Mm-hmm. With a little bit of investigation to, as early as possible, to stop yourself from getting into trouble so you don't need to dig yourself out of trouble. It all comes down to the timing and open eyes.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You have to be aware of it, as you said.
Yeah.
All right. Are there any closing words or like something that you want to make sure you leave our listener with so that they really remember this is something that I need to pay attention to?
Yeah, I would say you can be successful in managing your financial life, which frees up the rest of your life. It takes that piece of the stress out. It allows you to do fun stuff with your family, with your friends. It allows you to go on vacation. It allows you to make sure that your kids are going to be able to get the kind of education that they want to get.
Yep.
Really, really important.
Yeah, you have to pay attention to that because of the ripple effects that we'll have later on.
Yeah, and parents can't teach their kids what the parents don't know. Mm-hmm. If the parents don't have this basic information, how are they going to teach it to their kids? Because the kids are not learning it anyplace else.
So the buck stops here.
The buck stops here.
Now, can you give us your information where folks can find you?
Absolutely. As I said, I'm in the process right now of building the website, which will be up and running in the not-too-distant future. And that would be Ellen at therootsoffinance.com. My name is Ellen Smiley. My phone is 516-659-1186, and I have my office on Broad Hollow Road in Melville.
Excellent. Ellen, thank you so much for being on the show today. Incredible advice from someone who's a very seasoned professional, a lot of great experience. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Thanks for having me on, Ray. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, same here. So we want to thank you for being with us. Before we leave, I'd like to leave you with DB's philosophy, my co-host and producer, Donyshia Boston-Hill. So with what Benjamin Franklin says is, an investment in knowledge pays the best dividends. We want to thank you for being with us. My name is Ray Schwetz, along with Donyshia Boston-Hill, your co-host and producers. Visit nccradio.org for more information. We're available on Odyssey, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, as a podcast on iTunes, Android Podcasts, and Spreaker. This has been Tower Talk Business Radio, powered by the voice of National Community College, 90.3 WHPC.